What's going on, everyone? The Brooklyn Nets and the Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving experiment may be coming to an end. Kevin Durant has not talked to the front office since their elimination in round one. Kyrie Irving, it doesn't look like they're going to extend him, and many talks are they're just either going to let Kyrie Irving go or they're going to try to find a way to trade him. So I want to propose a potential trade that could help both the Brooklyn Nets and two other teams. So right off the bat, you have the Los Angeles Lakers, the Pheonix Suns, and the Brooklyn Nets, who all have very similar problems. They all have a player that they kind of just want to get rid of, right? You have the Los Angeles Lakers. They have the Westbrook situation that many believe are going to trade him and try to get back something this offseason. The Pheonix Suns with DeAndre Aton, it looks like they're not going to extend him and very likely either going to sign and trade or let him walk. Granted, depending on what he gets offered, they may just match it. So there's a lot of mystery in regards to the Phoenix Suns, but they also underperformed this year. Like many people thought the Suns, like this was their chance to win a championship, and they got eliminated in the second round to the Dallas Mavericks. And then Brooklyn, of course, with all the Kyrie antics this past season, as well as now Kevin Durant isn't really talking to the team, and they don't look like they're going to extend Kyrie. If you get rid of Kyrie, is it very likely that you're going to have to get rid of Kevin Durant? Because Kevin Durant went there to play with Kyrie Irving. So it's like, will KD want to stay if you trade or get rid of Kyrie? So it's just a big mess all around the board. Now, when it comes to this trade, the first trade, very straightforward, very simple. Russel Westbrook for Kyrie Irving. And now you may be thinking, like, why would they do that? Like, that makes no sense. Well, for several reasons. One, Brooklyn would take on the Westbrook contract. Obviously, there'd be some draft picks or some other compensation thrown in as well. Kyrie Irving, Brooklyn gets to get rid of the Kyrie problem, right? Go to the Lakers, go play with your buddy LeBron. You've been talking about LeBron a lot lately. LeBron James has won a championship with Kyrie, so it might be a situation in which Kyrie is going to want to go to. Not just that, but how many teams are going to give up something for Kyrie Irving, especially with all the antics, especially with all the mess that Kyrie offers and brings. He's a tremendous basketball player and has nothing to do with his basketball talents, but it's just him in general. Many teams aren't going to want him. Not just that, but how many teams actually need a point guard? It's a one issue for another issue when it comes to the Lakers and the Nets. Not just that, but it makes a lot of sense for the Nets because you take on his contract for a year, $44 million gets wiped off the year after, and yet now you have essentially a clean slate, right? You get to wash your hands clean. You could even buy out Westbrook if you don't want him on the team. There's so many options that Brooklyn would have if they took on the Westbrook situation. You're probably not going to get much better because if you're trading Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant, then very likely you're kind of just resetting, right? You're resetting for a year or two, so it doesn't hurt to take on the Westbrook contract plus some incentives. And I think it's a real win for Brooklyn. They kind of hit the reset button. You got a guy in Westbrook that can keep you competitive in the Eastern Conference. The Lakers, they take on Kyrie. LeBron and Kyrie have won a championship together. You're basically replacing Kevin Love with Anthony Davis, which is a huge upgrade. Lakers, if they can stay healthy, are a legit championship contender. And Brooklyn is very likely going to be just as good as, if not better, next season with, a Westbrook and the pieces they have. And if they trade Kevin Durant, which is what I want to get into next, because the big question is not so much Kyrie, right? Because the Kyrie pool is very limited. That's why I think a Lakers trade, like your problem for my problem, makes a ton of sense. One more thing that I should add is that Brooklyn, the owners of Brooklyn and Rob Pelinka, they sat down and discussed something. We don't know what that is, but they sat and got together and had a dinner and a conversation, which could have been about this potential swap. That might be a realistic possibility. So that's something else to keep in mind. But again, Kevin Durant, what team could he go to or want to go to? He's not going to go to some, one of the lottery teams, right? He's going to go to a team that actually can contend, that can compete, that would want him. And again, the pool is very limited. Granted, many teams are going to want to trade for Kevin Durant, but you need pieces that make sense. If you're the Brooklyn Nets, you need compensation that makes sense. And, any other team, they're not going to want to gut their entire roster in order to go and get Kevin Durant, and then you're not a contender. So that's where I think the trade with the Pheonix Suns makes a ton of sense, right? You trade Bridges, you trade Ayton, and maybe throw in a Crowder for a Kevin Durant. On top of course, you're going to have to throw in draft picks and stuff like that. Brooklyn, again, hitting that reset button. You're essentially swapping Kyrie for Russell Westbrook. You got Russell Westbrook, you got Bridges, you got Ayton, you got Crowder. You have the defensive pieces around Westbrook to actually utilize him. You got great shooters. Yeah, you still have players like Patty Mills. You still have Joe Harris. You have pieces that really complement and fit Russell Westbrook and his style of play. So I think that it's not only a benefit in the sense of a Kevin Durant trade, but it's also a benefit if you take on Westbrook, because you're also not only adding pieces for the future, but you're adding pieces that make sense if you decide to keep Westbrook to stay competitive in the Eastern Conference, which I do believe this team would be competitive. And for the Pheonix Suns, it makes all the sense in the world, right? You're taking on Kevin Durant. You're going and pushing for one more championship, maybe even several, with Chris Paul, Devin Booker, and Kevin Durant. That's arguably the best trio in the entire NBA. And you have that go-to proven scorer. So if Chris Paul and Devin Booker lay an egg like we saw, you have Kevin Durant to get you out of that. You have Kevin Durant who can score from anywhere on the court, and you can't double team him because you have Chris Paul who can get his mid-range shot. You have him who's just, a master orchestrator. You have Devin Booker who can get his shot. It's just great complementary pieces that just fit very well for the Pheonix Suns and really push for that contender. You still have guys like Cameron Payne and you have McGee. You could re-sign McGee, have him be the center, because at that point, you just need some serviceable centers to get the rebounds, things like that. You still have defensive pieces, and at the end of the day, you have Kevin Durant, you have Chris Paul, and you have Devin Booker. What more could you ask for? And then for Brooklyn, they still have Ben Simmons. So at the very least, including Ben Simmons, and if you want to keep Westbrook, great. Yeah, Westbrook and Simmons may be a little bit of an issue, but you can alternate them. Not just that, but you don't know how long it's going to be before Ben Simmons actually plays. If you have Westbrook, you can kind of take your time and letting Simmons come back, especially if Westbrook can keep you competitive. But even if you do, whether you keep Westbrook or not, you still have a pretty decent core, right? You have Ben Simmons, Ayton, and Bridges as your basically three structure to center around. On top of all the guys I mentioned, you could keep Patty Mills, you could keep Joe Harris. If Westbrook's there, you keep Westbrook. You have Jay Crowder. I think that this is a team that not only in the near future could be very good, right? Simmons would complement very well, but you have a great defensive team. You're one of the best defensive teams probably in the NBA with Simmons, Ayton, Bridges, Crowder. And not just that, but you have all the shooters, Seth Curry. You have so many guys that can contribute, knock down threes. I think you're a more deeper, well-balanced team than you were with Kyrie and Kevin Durant. I don't think that they are a legit contender, but I think that they're a better team than they were last year, in my opinion, with this. And you still have a young core to build around for the future. Westbrook's money falls off, that $44 million. You could go get a Bradley Beal, somebody like that, to come and plug in Brooklyn and say, hey, or a Donovan Mitchell or whoever, some disgruntled star, free agent. You have these three to build around. Westbrook's money falls off. Easily plug in a star, and now you got like a legit four guys that can lead you, and now you're a real contender. I think that no matter how you slice it, this would be a great deal for the Brooklyn Nets. You're getting off of Kyrie. You're obviously Phoenix is going to throw in some draft picks and stuff, so you probably got 3 to 4 draft picks for the future. You got a great core in Ayton, Bridges, and Simmons. You got great complementary pieces all around. You're deep. You're in the Eastern Conference, so you're competitive. You're likely competing for a 5 or 6 seed at the worst, based on the bottom half of the teams. I just think that it's a great spot for Brooklyn to be in. You got money falling off, so you have $44 million that you have to play with. You can go get 2 stars or even 2 like complementary pieces that fit these 3, and it's a win for Brooklyn. But it's also a win for the Los Angeles Lakers, right? You have your big 3. At that point, you can basically piece around whoever you want around them. Kyrie costs less than Westbrook, so you got a little money on the back end. I just think we've seen LeBron and Kyrie win a championship together with with Kevin Love. Well, now you have Anthony Davis, and you have this Phoenix-Lakers rivalry showdown, which, in my opinion, I think Davis is the X factor, right? You say LeBron and KD wash. I think Kyrie and Devin Booker wash, if assuming both are healthy, both are, actually playing. And then Chris Paul and Anthony Davis, I take Anthony Davis over Chris Paul any day, right? Or even if you want to look at Kyrie and Chris Paul wash, then you have Anthony Davis and Devin Booker. Anthony Davis, I think I'd take that. You have these two juggernauts that is just back to exciting basketball. You still have the Golden State Warriors, right? They're still going to be there. You still have the young Dallas Mavericks. It just makes the West very exciting, very competitive. Lakers kind of rise to prominence once again. This team becomes a legit contender, assuming everyone's healthy. That's the big issue because now you don't have the engine that is Westbrook, right? The healthy that is Westbrook, which was kind of the idea. It's why the Lakers wanted Westbrook. Davis and LeBron, they're going to miss, 20 plus games. So Westbrook hopefully can get us some wins while they're gone. Kyrie, it's very likely Kyrie is going to miss 20 plus games. Not just that, but he's notoriously injured and hurt. But if he can stay healthy, maybe LeBron can get his mind right and get him back to wanting to play competitive basketball. It might be a nice, fresh change of scenery. Kyrie's been talking a lot about LeBron lately. I think it's a great win for the Lakers. You're trading your negative that is Russel Westbrook for Kyrie Irving, who, if Kyrie Irving buys in and he actually plays, you're a much better team. I mean, Kyrie, LeBron, and Davis fit so much better than a Westbrook, LeBron, and AD. So it is a home run if you're the Lakers. Again, the Nets and the Lakers sat and talked about something. And many people believe that it was a Kyrie for Westbrook trade. And what would that look like? You're likely giving Westbrook and some draft picks for Kyrie, or you're giving Westbrook and, maybe a Tucker or something along those lines for a Kyrie Irving. You get that swap, you get that trade. It works for Brooklyn. Like I said, you're basically getting rid of your Kyrie Irving headache. If Kevin Durant wants to stay, then perfect. Now you have a guy that is going to play. Both of them have played together. One of the big concerns, though, was that Kevin Durant left because of Westbrook. But maybe they could work it out. Maybe they could say, hey, let's go get a run. The Nets have the pieces that fit for a Russell Westbrook. So I just think that even if you're just unloading Kyrie, it's a great trade for both sides. But when it comes to the Pheonix Suns, again, you're talking Booker, Chris Paul, and Kevin Durant. That is, again, arguably the best big three in the NBA. You could make an argument that it's better than the Lakers' big three. I do think that AD is the real X factor if these two teams were to meet. I think Anthony Davis, like the Pheonix Suns, they wouldn't have an answer for Anthony Davis, especially since you get rid of Ayton. Though if you have McGee, maybe you go get another center, somebody. I think that, you could at least be competitive. But like I said, you got to think, at least at the worst, Kyrie and Chris Paul wash, LeBron and Durant wash. So it basically comes down to Booker and Anthony Davis. I personally would choose Anthony Davis, and that's from just a pure unbiased perspective. They both have injury histories. They're both inconsistent at times. So they basically, but you're talking a big guy that can do basically everything, as opposed to Devin Booker, who he at least tries on defense, but he's not a great defensive guy. He can go get you 30, but the next game he might get you 10. So I look at it that way. But regardless, Phoenix, this is a home run all day. You have your big three. At that point, you can basically piece together whatever pieces you need. Go get a center. Go get a couple more wings in free agency. As long as you have these three healthy, you're going to likely be the 1 or 2 seed in the West, right? Because likely all these guys are going to play a lot more than the Lakers. I still see, even if they get Kyrie, Lakers are probably still going to be, somewhere in the 4 to 5 seed, just because I don't think they're going to care about the regular season as much. LeBron, Davis, and Kyrie are going to miss 20 games. But this big three likely doesn't miss a ton of games. Kevin Durant was really healthy this year. Devin Booker, Chris Paul, even if, one of them is out, you have two of them where I could see multiple occasions. The Lakers, you have Davis and Kyrie out, or you have LeBron and Kyrie out, or LeBron and Davis out on, multiple games. So I think the Suns, they're up there as one of the best teams in the NBA. They have a tremendous big three. You got a guy that's proven that could hit big shots, that could really help you, along with Chris Chris Paul and Devin Booker. You got your closer. You got your guy that can come in, automatic 30-point production, can play defense, can completely take over and change games. Basically comes down to like, who would you rather have on your team? Kevin Durant or Ayton, who doesn't want to play, and Mikal Bridges? I love Mikal Bridges, but he's not Kevin Durant, and he's very likely never going to be Kevin Durant. So if you could do that trade, throw in a Jay Crowder, who again was very inconsistent, I think that is a huge win for the Pheonix Suns. But as always, I pass the question on to you. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. What do you think about this potential trade? I mean, it could be a 3-team trade. Most likely, it'll be separate transactions. It'll be 2 separate trades. But it's just, instead of making multiple videos, just put it all in one video, give you the scope, give you the idea. I just think this is one of the fairly win-win situations for all teams involved, right? Brooklyn gets a great young core. They get draft picks. They're still competitive, right? They're not getting a young core that isn't competitive, that, you're going to suck for a couple years and now you're getting terrible draft picks. No, you're getting some quality guys. You're getting a 2010 center. You're getting a 2010 defensive wing that is just gold in this NBA. He's only making like $6 million a year for the next 5 years. So that is a huge contract that you would love, right? That is a huge incentive for the Brooklyn Nets. You throw in Jay Crowder to make the money fit. You throw in some draft picks. It's a huge win for Brooklyn Nets. You're trading Kyrie for Westbrook. You get one problem for another, but Westbrook fits the team that you have in Brooklyn. And we've seen Westbrook still has that 2010 and 10 guy in him. We saw it on several occasions with the Lakers. It's just the Lakers team was terrible, and it just didn't have the complementary pieces around Westbrook. I think that the Brooklyn Nets team, especially if you do the Kevin Durant trade with the Pheonix Suns, your whole team is essentially built around Westbrook, getting to the basket, driving and kicking, throwing dunks down to Ayton, setting up Ayton. I just think it's a great position to be Brooklyn. Not just that, if it doesn't work, Westbrook just falls off. You got $44 million to go get another superstar, and now you got a legit 4 with Crowder 5. I mean, come on. I mean, what more could you want? They're all interchangeable parts. They can all play multiple positions. You're one of the best defensive teams in the entire league. Pheonix Suns, I already mentioned, you get Kevin Durant with Chris Paul and Devin Booker. You have the ultimate orchestrator, the point guard, as many people call him, to facilitate to Kevin Durant and Devin Booker. I mean, what better position could you be in if you're Chris Paul? What better position could you be in if you're the Pheonix Suns? And again, the Lakers, you have a big 3 in AD, LeBron, and Kyrie. We already seen Kyrie and LeBron win a championship. I think that they could do it again. I think that is a much better team, and it gives you some more flexibility. It gives you some decision-making. If Kyrie doesn't work, he gives in. He falls off in a year or two, so you're good, or you're trading him or buying him out, whatever. You figure it out. But anyway, let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comment section below. I'd love to hear you. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. It helps me out a lot. Lets me know you enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. If you're not subscribed to the channel, hit that subscribe button, followed by the bell notification. Stay up to date with all things sports. Join this wonderful community and all of our discussions. See you all in the next one. Thank you.